This is the examination of the hidden human condition.
You're listening to the Hidden Killers Podcast.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast with Tony Brueski.
Will the Kohberger trial actually take place in October? That's what I think a lot of people are wanting. Whether or not that actually translates into reality is a whole other thing, as we're starting to see some of the stall tactics, if you will, begin to play. I don't know if it's even necessarily stall tactic. That might be the wrong word to use here, as the defense is seeking more documentation as to what went on with the grand jury last month, because they claim that there is exonerating evidence that was not shown. Well, what is that exonerating evidence is the big question. Kohberger's defense team right now, they are putting a pause on things as they're eagerly awaiting the release of the contentious records from last month's grand jury indictment. Kohberger's trial was scheduled for October, is at this moment still scheduled for October. However, the recent developments are leaning towards that may change. Moscow community and wider audiences have been following this case closely since the grand jury indictment expedited it to a trial. The grand jury, often confidentially assembled group of individuals impaneled exclusively for this case by the prosecution just last month. The defense is currently in the process of deciding their next steps and has requested detailed accounts of the grand jury hearings, including transcripts, recordings, presented evidence, and even the names of the jurors. The defense lodged this request just 3 days after the indictment's announcement, intensifying the existing friction between the defense and prosecution regarding the release of some of the records and their conformity with state laws or court precedents. The case has been presided over by a Judge. It's confusing, I know. Judge John Judge. First, I thought it was a misprint, of Idaho's 2nd Judicial District Court in Latah County. He's now set a hearing for June 27th. So just looking like next week to determine which elements of the grand jury proceedings the defense will be permitted to review. Kohberger's lead public defender, Ann Taylor, has filed a motion last week requesting that judge also makes a ruling regarding the defense's plea for a stay at the hearing. Prosecution led by Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson objected on procedural grounds. Taylor countered that Kohberger seeks to pause the proceedings while he investigates potential grounds to file a dismissal motion related to the selection of the grand jury. She states that Kohberger is not at fault for the delay he faces in this pursuit. Of course, at the center of all this, 28-year-old Bryan Kohberger, accused of the horrifying stabbing deaths of University of Idaho students in November of 22. On his May 22nd arraignment, Kohberger refrained from entering a plea, you probably remember, exercising his right to contest the indictment on the grounds of probable cause. The decision prompted the judge to enter a plea of not guilty on Kohberger's behalf. The prosecution contends that certain elements of the grand jury records that Kohberger's defense team seeks to review are not permissible under Idaho law. According to Thompson, the defense must demonstrate good cause to warrant the release of additional information beyond what the rules expressly allow. He cited a 2015 case in his filing, arguing that the grand jury proceedings are intended to be as secretive as possible. Boise-based criminal defense attorney Edwina Elcox expressed that the request for grand jury records by Kohberger's defense surpasses what's usually made available. She believes that they're doing so to explore potential avenues to dismiss their client's indictment. However, she also raised concerns about the impartiality of a grand jury selected from a county deeply affected by the students' deaths and the intense media scrutiny around the investigation that led to Kohberger's arrest. It's complex. The trial, if it stays where it is only 15 weeks away. They got a lot of information to go through in defending Bryan Kohberger, a man that some may consider to be, from what we know thus far, very simply indefensible.
You're locked into the Hidden Killers podcast.
Want more? Start binging on all of our true crime podcasts right now through Apple Podcasts and get an ad-free experience when you sign up to be a True Crime Today Premium Plus member, exclusively on Apple Podcasts.
More of the Hidden Killers podcast, dropping soon.
Press subscribe now.